Okay, so now that we got the main idea about common factoring, let's do some practice questions. And here, please feel free to skip to the part that you struggle with from the worksheet, or if you're really struggling, stay tuned and watch the full video. So just as a quick recap, when you're trying to factor it out, you want to find the greatest common factor between the two terms. So in part A, question A, notice that only the first term has a variable, so that means we cannot factor out the variable. So then we have to look at the constants of each term. So we have a 3 and a 12. What are the factors of 3? Well, 3 is already a prime number, which means it cannot be divisible by another number. So 3 is the lowest number. But 12 could be further reduced by 4 times 3 or 6 times 2. So what is common between these two as the greatest common factor? 3 and 3. So that means in this equation, we can factor out a 3. So you're going to put that on the left side of the equation, open up your brackets, and then 3 times what will give you 3x. In this case, it would just be x, right? And as we mentioned before, you can do a quick check by using the distributive, because that's the opposite of factoring. So 3 times x, 3x, so that works out. And 3 times what will give you 12? It'll be 4. 3 times 4 will give you 12. If you don't like to think of multiplication, you could think of it as in terms of division, right? So if you factor out a 3, what's 3x divided by 3? X. Or what's 12 divided by 3? 4. So we still get the same final answer. All right? So that's it. That's fully factored. So now let's do B. Again, our strategy is always look at the variable first. And in this case, there's a P in both of them. We want to pick the one with the lowest power. So that would be P squared. Then you compare the coefficients, 4 and 8. What are the factors of 4? Factors of 4, that's just 2 times 2, because those two are prime numbers. You have 4 times 2. So in this case, what is the greatest common factor between the two of them? Will be the number, oh no, 4. That is the greatest common factor itself. So we can factor out a 4p squared. 4p squared divided by 4p squared is just 1. How do you check? You should be able to multiply. 4p squared times 1, well, you get back the same thing, so that's good. And the second part, you could think of it like division, so it's 8p cubed divided by 4p squared. That'll give you 2p. Again, I like to think of it as what number multiplied by 4p squared gives you back 8p cubic. So that'll be 2p. So just always remember to perform your check. Okay, example C. Same strategy here. We looked at x is in common between the two of them. We take the lowest power to factor out, so that's just x. Y was not in common, so we don't common factor out the y. And then we compare the numbers, the coefficients, 5 and 20. Well, 5 is a prime number, so we cannot reduce it further. 20, we can write it as 10 times 2, or 5 times 4. So what is the greatest common factor? The number 5 itself. So we can factor out 5x. 5x times what will give you 5xy? That would be y. And 5x times what will give you 20x squared? That would be 4x. And that's how you fully factor out that equation. Okay, we have 3 more examples to do. So let's go to D. We look at the variables, but notice that it's only common in 2 of them, so we cannot factor it out in all 3 terms, so we don't factor it out. Then we look at the numbers, 4, 8, and 6. So So for 4, the factors are 2 times 2. For 8 is 4 times 2. 6, 3 times 2. So what is the greatest common factor? In this case, it will be 2. Okay, so let's common factor the 2. 4g squared divided by 2, it will be 2g. 8g divided by 2, 4g. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake before. It should have been 2g squared. And negative 6 divided by 2 will be negative 3. Great. Again, you should get in the habit of checking. 2 times 2g squared is 4g squared. 2 times 4g will be 8g, and 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. So yeah, we're correct. Even though I almost made a mistake, right? Okay, let's do E. Wow, this one seems very complicated, right? But if we follow the same strategy, it should be easy. Just look at the variables. In this case, x is shared between all of them. So what is the lowest power of x? Just x. Then you look at the y's, and it's common between all of them, so we could factor it out. What is the lowest power of y? It's just y itself. And then finally, we're going to look at the numbers, the constants, 2, 4, and 10. 2, 4, 10. 2 is a prime number, so it cannot be reduced. 4 is 2 times 2, and 10 is 5 times 2. So what is the greatest common factor in this case? 2. So that means we can factor out a 2xy. So negative 2xy divided by 2xy will be negative 1. 4x squared y cubic divided by 2xy. 2xy squared. See, that's why division is a bit harder to think about it. So if you instead think about multiplication, 2xy, and how do you get back 4x squared y cubic? Well, you need to multiply by 2. You need x squared, so you need to put another x, and you need y cubic, so you need a y squared. So that could be easier for you to think about it. Okay, let me erase this to make some space. And for the last term, 2 times y will give you negative 10, negative 5. X times y will give you x cubic, x squared. And y times y will give you y5, y to the power of 4. And then we're finished. Good. The last question now. Oh, if you see this, all of the variables are different, so they cannot be common factor. Okay, right? Because we have m, h, and k, they're all different, so they cannot be factored out. So we draw attention to the constants, 7, 3, and 5. Now 5 is prime number, so it cannot be reduced. 3 is a prime number, cannot be reduced. And 7 is also a prime number, so it cannot be reduced. So this whole equation turns out it cannot be factored. So just don't be afraid if you get these cases. You're right. The teacher is just trying to trick you, right?